Hello guys, it's Jess Parr from Springen Equestrian, and I'm super excited to be here today for Haute Equestrian's website and mobile app launch. This is so exciting because this has been in the works for a while. I know Caitlin's been working really hard at it, but it will also be revolutionizing the way that we look for jobs in the industry, which is so important and very much needed. I can't wait. So I hope that you guys are enjoying this launch, and I thought I would pop on and just talk a little bit about show season prep, because at least for my clients, they haven't done a legitimate season the last 2-ish years because of the pandemic, and there are people who have been showing on and off, but it's just not quite the same, and this is the first time that we're really going back at it, so everyone's feeling a little overwhelmed. Everyone's trying to kind of remember what it feels like to do an excessive season, and so that's kind of what's been on my mind and my clients' minds lately. So I'm just going to go through some certain advice and tips and tricks around preparing for your show season, and hopefully it's of help to you. The first section of this is the mundane section that I'm sure most of you guys listening have already covered, but just in case, for anybody who's considering maybe showing later in the season or they're just thinking about it, is of course your memberships, your vaccinations, all of those like administrative tasks that we have to do when we want to compete at a certain level at certain sanctioned shows. So every single show has different requirements for this, and you're best to ask your governing body, whoever is regulating the show, what you need if you're not sure. But you need usually some sort of annual memberships, and then any other kind of level relevant memberships that you need for yourself as a person and your horse specifically. And this all depends on what type of level and what type of show you're doing with your horse. And the other thing is making sure well in advance that your horse is properly vaccinated and tested for anything that they need to be tested for, and that you have your certificate from your vet or any kind of biosecurity requirements that your shows might have, so that you're easily prepared and you don't have to be scrambling at the beginning of the season, which is now. So don't scramble now if I'm telling you this and it's new information. I'm sure that you can get it done and reach out to anybody who is running the show or anybody who, is regulating the show to just get more information. The other thing I feel that is highly overlooked is making sure that your horse is really prepared for travel. Obviously, many of the horses that we show with, and many of them that you probably show with, or the horses that you have, most of them are probably well versed in trailering and traveling to shows. But what happens over the winter is, we don't do as much of that. And the last thing you want to be doing is taking your horse off property for the first time when you're planning to compete, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of that first time back anxiety from your horse, even yourself, and it's not really setting them up for a positive experience, and you as well. There's a lot of kind of nuances when it comes to trailering. Some horses like certain types of trailers. They only like to be trailered with certain horses next to them. They might not like to be tied a certain way. Some of ours really like to have food in front of them, and some of them are so stressed they don't want anything in their face. Some of them tolerate different types of wraps. Some of them have, tendency to pull wraps on the trailer. We don't want that happening. So we have to know each specific individual horse's requirements when it comes to just the trailer, to make sure that they're super comfortable, or as comfortable as they can be from A to B. And then hopefully getting off the trailer and not being super stressed or losing a lot of electrolytes because they're sweating and they're anxious. So all of those things we really take into consideration, and we make sure that the horses have been off property, they've seen other areas, they've had a trip, and you're comfortable in knowing at least what to expect, because the last thing you want is to have any unexpected things happen when you're a little bit in a time crunch when you're traveling to a show. I think that changes everything. So making sure that you know how your horse travels and setting them up for success. Of course, I'm going to talk about our feed programs, because that is really important when it comes to just our horses as a whole and not just in competition. But it is also important coming up to show season, because we have certain things that happen. If the horse has a really extensive show season, we have to make sure that their weight is going to stay on. They're not going to lose weight because they're working too hard, they're stressing too hard, whatever it might be. So incremental, slow increases in whatever it might be that horse needs, protein, fat, energy, whatever, depending on the individual horse, we're trying to make those as we come up to show season, and even as far as small things like increasing magnesium intake can really help a couple of ours. So there's all these little small changes that we make kind of in preparation for show season so that we're not retroactively trying to put weight back on. Maybe there's some big sweaters and they really tend to lose a lot of weight because they're stressed and because they're anxious and they're away from home, whatever it might be. And some horses don't like to drink or eat as much as they would at home because it's just like people, they have anxiety about being away. So already knowing that and planning for that is going to help you be really effective throughout your season. You don't want to be trying to kind of pull everything together in a retroactive way. It's definitely better to be proactive and always making very small changes, nothing super drastic, because we don't want to completely change the way that our horses' diets are, especially in front of show season, but in general because they don't really react well to that. So definitely a really important point is looking at your feed and ensuring that it's going to support the horse through show season. And if you know of certain ways that they react during the season, already preparing for that as you go in. My personal favorite topic is fitness and exercise. This is a big one. Everybody comes out of winter with different things. One of them is we're usually inside if you guys are Canadian, and the ride inside is very different from the ride outside. So that's a huge thing to make up for when you come into show season. Are you moving big enough? Is your horse fit enough? Are the ring sizes drastically different? Do you need to make sure that you're conditioning your horse to be ready for what they're going to have to perform like at the shows? And also, it's exactly the same for yourself. If you're used to doing a certain routine at home, indoors, in a smaller ring, whatever it might be, and you're getting winded when you do a couple laps in a bigger outdoor ring, that's something to really consider. There's a lot of, reasons why we have to prepare ourselves physically as well as our horses for show season. You don't want to all of a sudden be expecting them to perform, as they would, outside if you've been riding inside the whole time, just like trailering. Even though that they have probably trailered before, there might be some sort of change or new habit or new stressor that you don't know about. So you want to have that all laid out, and you want to make sure you feel very confident with your fitness level and your horse's conditioning, so that you're not asking for more than they can provide when you get to show season. And taking the time to also spend time with your horse winding down and doing certain things that you will have to do to get ready for show season, like bathing, practicing braiding, or just standing around and, whatever it might be, just finding a balance between doing some of those things and making sure that they're comfortable. And then also on the riding side, making sure your horse is fit and conditioned enough to handle what you're going to ask for them at the show. And lastly, I think one of the things that's been most prevalent for my own clients this year is mental fortitude and dealing with the anxiety of showing. And I don't know if that's coming from the fact that a lot of them haven't had long seasons as of recent, or we have a lot of new horses that haven't really experienced the show atmosphere yet. There's lots of reasons why you might be feeling anxious or thinking of all the things that can go wrong. And I get a lot of riders with intrusive thoughts. They're already thinking like, oh, my horse is going to run, my horse is going to do this, do that. And we work a lot on witnessing those thoughts and understanding that they're there, but then trying to observe them consciously, because your subconscious thoughts when you're riding can really, really change the way that you go around a course. It can change your horse's energy. And there's lots of, things that you can do to try to manage that, like taking the time to make sure you're in the right headspace before you get on, taking a moment to just kind of sit there on your horse or walk around and take a breath. Lots of tools in the toolbox that you're going to need when you get into the ring, because a lot of the times you might feel prepared until you get there and anxiety starts creeping in about all the things that can go wrong. And it's so important to be able to be okay with that and observe, but also manage those feelings so that you're not impeding your own performance with your thoughts, and you're also not affecting your horse's performance with your tension. So definitely something, managing stress and expectations is a huge one for everybody who's going into show season. And I know that that can be one of the trickiest things to overcome if you are a generally anxious person or a little bit nervous about being in front of a crowd, or there's a reason, you know, you have a history or experience with your horse where you're kind of like making a little bit worried that something bad might happen again, whatever it might be. So making sure that you're as prepared using these other things as possible is going to help you be more confident. That's organization and preparedness is definitely number one in order to have confidence. So the other thing that I threw in here to make sure that you're as organized and prepared as possible, because I'm one of those kinds of people that forgets. I'll think of things, but I forget them. So I've made a little competition checklist, and I'm pretty sure Caitlin has it on the resources for Haute Equestrian, but you can access it on my website too as well, springeneq.com, and it'll just give you something to take all of that stress and anxiety of planning and packing out of your head and put it on a piece of paper so you don't have to carry that with you into show season. I'm wishing you guys the best of luck in 2022 with your show season. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. And if you are searching for any equestrian related jobs, Haute Equestrian is definitely the place to be. And I will see you guys soon.